My name is Sarah Cleveland. I'm the Senior Strategic Advisor for the Public Sector and Federal DoD at ExtraHop. I'm going to talk to you for about 10 minutes today about Zero Trust. So, what is Zero Trust? At its core capability, it's the ability to automate security response to threats so that organizations can repair their infrastructure faster than the adversaries can attack it. You assume your infrastructure is already breached. So it's trust no one and verify everything. So prioritizing your zero trust implementation in a modern work environment, there are some things that make it more challenging now than it did pre-pandemic. And one of those things is the remote workers and remote working, using equipment that's not owned by the company or organization, and it's not behind a firewall, so that the management of that device is not necessarily under your control. So you have to start focusing on what really matters. And when you do focus on that, you think about the data, not necessarily the endpoints itself, but the data that flows to it. So you're extending that security perimeter to where the data goes. So it's beyond the devices on the network, and it's to the person who's using that data and that information that they require to make those decisions. So you need to rethink that customer. So endpoints and employees. Have to redefine your policies around what APIs are allowed. The human is no longer thought of as the endpoint. Data is your new customer, meaning that data needs to be protected as you would protect any type of person from kidnapping or hijacking. So you need to protect that data, uh, wrapping that data in security. So now that we kind of know what zero trust, which is trust no one, verify everything, we're going to move into kind of how the Department of Defense looks at zero trust. So the Department of Defense has defined zero trust as a series of controls. And those controls range from the zero trust target level to the advanced zero trust. If you look at the fan chart depicted here, toward the interior portion is where those zero trust target level controls are. And as you get further out of the fan is the advanced zero trust. So I look at this as a guideline of things that you should be doing on your network and a roadmap of sorts to get you started. And it's divided up into several pillars, and those pillars are visibility and analytics, automation and orchestration, network and environment, data, application and workload, devices, and user. And as you can tell, in the user and devices areas, there's more controls that have to be put against that to reach that advanced zero trust. So this may seem overwhelming, but there's a way to get started without having to adopt every single one of these controls all at once. So I like to think about zero trust as a team sport. Any one vendor that will tell you they can reach advanced zero trust with just their product, you should probably look deeper into, because zero trust is truly a team sport. At ExtraHop, we fall under all those purple stars is where that we can affect your zero trust environment. So this might, again, seem overwhelming to get started, but a good place to start with zero trust is visibility and monitoring, accelerating your cyber deterrence, detection, and defense with that key capability of visibility and monitoring. The reason why I say this is because you can't defend what you can't see. You can't cut down the risk if you don't know where the risk lies. So by doing that visibility, you can also find revenue to spend on going toward the more advanced zero trust controls. For example, using the visibility tool to make sure you have a good inventory of everything that's on your network. You can see what gets used the most, what is needs to be replaced, and what can maybe go for another cycle rather than spending money to replace it on the average Moore's law of replacement every 3 years. Another good way to find money in your environment to move toward a more advanced zero trust is also to look at how often licenses get used. And with the visibility and monitoring, you can see if there is an expensive license that is applied, that you can maybe sundown and move the one user to a different type of licensing or software. And then also the endpoints that aren't necessarily users, but non-entity entity endpoints that possibly aren't used very often or called upon very often. And that's one place where you can garner some money to go a little bit further on your zero trust journey. So I think the point that I want to make with zero trust environment is not a lot of people can make a zero trust environment as a green field environment. You're going to be in a brown field type of situation. And if you find yourself in that situation, a good place to start is with the visibility and monitoring. Now, there are some common there are some common pitfalls in the zero trust journey, and that's a lot of vendors will make a lot of promises, and there is the hyperscaler method, which hyperscaling, I would like to say, would be compatible with a zero trust security environment, but it's inherently not compatible, as they work under the shared responsibility model of security, where the cloud provider is responsible for certain agreed upon elements of security, while the customer is responsible for all else. While there are certain benefits to this model, it's inherently incompatible to zero trust. So many people will try to find a middle ground between the shared accountability model and zero trust, and it's really, there is no middle ground to that. So the core of the issue lies in the lack of full visibility and access to the underlying infrastructure. To get to a real zero trust, you have to be able to segment the network around access requests, but you just don't have this access or visibility with a hyperscaler, which is why visibility, again, is really important when you're going on your zero trust journey. Not to mention, you're unlikely to receive threat data on the hyperscaler's infrastructure, which will leave you ill prepared to defend against them. These issues have led many organizations to repatriate their data out of the cloud. So remember, on the first slide, I talked about data is your new customer. So many people have went and rescued their data from the cloud. So visibility and monitoring. In the great words of Sun Tzu, you need to know yourself in order to know your enemy. So the importance of policy enforcement and solutions powered by AI ML is critical. But neither of these things are possible without that visibility into network, devices, and users, which is precisely why Reveal X provides visibility is crucial. Even the most well-considered policy will be ineffective if you don't have the visibility to enforce it. So I appreciate the time you have given me today to talk about zero trust. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please reach out to ExtraHop and we'll be happy to keep the conversation going. Thank you.